So today we have a special guest with us, Andy Remley. He is a co-owner of DNA Athletics, and they are located in
Crest Hill,
Illinois. But I'm really excited they're actually coming closer to us in Plainfield, Illinois, sometimes in the near future. But Crest Hill is not that far away either. So what they specialize in is fitting patients with proper shoe wear for not only just runners but also with walkers too. And also they provide a lot of other services. So feel free to check out their website. And what's your website?
It is dna-athletics.com.
Okay. So we have Andy here to kind of go over some tips. Just kind of give you guys some tips to figure out what you should be looking for in a shoe, especially specific to like your particular foot type. So in physical therapy, I see a lot of patients with like plantar fasciitis, bursitis, tendonitis, and a lot of times, Andy, I see that most of the patients, they may have neutral foot, but when they stand, they go more into like the flat foot, some of you guys may know as pronation. But then on the contrary side, they could also have really supinated or high arches too. So would you be able to give some tips as far as what to look for when a person has like that pronation of the foot?
Yeah, of course. Well, one thing especially, we see a lot of people with plantar fasciitis on a daily basis. I've had it myself as well, so it's something I'm very familiar with. And my first instinct when I had that was to just go get like a heel cup or something soft, because you feel it generally in the back of your heel. That's usually it's worse when you get up in the morning or a couple hours after exercise. So you think, okay, my heel hurts, I'm going to get a heel cup.
Right.
And that's fine, but it's only getting to part of the problem. So one thing you really have to look for is the flexibility of your shoe.
Okay.
I had a very cushioned shoe at the time that had more than enough cushioning for my heel, but it was too flexible, and that's what was really irritating the plantar fascia. So I'm going to use my own shoe. Because I'm healed now, luckily. But you see, I can take my shoe and I can fold it in half.
Yes.
That is an irritant. It's the same thing as if you broke your arm. You don't just take bubble wrap and bubble wrap your arm in case it bumps into something, like a heel cup. You want to keep it so it doesn't move.
Okay.
Like with a broken bone. You want to have it in like something where it doesn't move. So the same thing with your shoe. If you can take your sandals, your flip-flops, your shoes, and you have plantar fasciitis and you can do this, that's an irritant. You need to have something more supportive. Yes.
I agree. Okay.
I'm going to leave my shoe off because I may need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So besides having a little bit more stability in the shoe, what else would you be looking for someone who is really heavy in the heel pain or something like that, and then they're really going into the pronation?
Well, that's called, in our world, it's called the stability shoe, is a term for a shoe that is designed for someone who overpronates or has arches that are weak or tend to fall in.
Okay.
So they make varying amounts of stability shoes. Unfortunately, mine is not a stability shoe because I have a very high arch. But typically, stability shoes will have some support, almost like an orthotic-like material built into the shoe itself, like right in this area where my arch would be. So when your weight comes down from walking or running and you have that tendency to want to go in, it falls onto the support and it helps hold it up. So that is and they make different levels of it. So depending on if you're someone who just pronates a little bit or if you're very flat-footed.
Exactly.
Another thing to look at is the bottom of the shoe is the last. So the last of the shoe is basically the curvature on the bottom. You see how this one has a slight curve right in through here, and it's only maybe about 4 inches from this side to this side. So if you get someone who has just a pancake flat foot, you already know right away just looking at the shoe from the bottom, this is not shaped like my foot. If they had a flat foot, my foot is going to hang off of the shoe, because my foot is much too wide for a shoe like this. And even if it had support built into it, the shoe's base is not wide enough. It's just like a house's foundation. If your house doesn't have a wide enough foundation for the size of the house, it's going to have to go somewhere. And it's going to fall off the sides of it.
Yeah.
So it's good if you have a narrow foot or even a wide foot, whatever type of foot it is, to look at the shoe from the bottom as well first and see what kind of curvature it is, how wide it is, because odds are if it's too narrow here for you and you have a wide foot, you're going to be spilling off the side of the shoe, which is going to cause you some problems with bruising in the arch, your feet spilling off, a lot of different things.
Okay. And now you already talked about it, that you have more of a supinated or like the higher arch. So can you kind of go more into that? Obviously, you would need a little bit more of a mobility shoe at that point.
Yeah, generally if you have a high arch, you're what we call more of a neutral gated runner or walker. You're going to generally be down the middle of your foot, or sometimes If your arches are really high, you're gonna even supinate, like you said, which is where you put more of your pressure out by like your little toes to the outside of your foot.
Okay.
So in that case, you would want to steer clear of the stability shoes, which I just mentioned, because those are specifically designed for someone who rolls in, and they have that support built into it specifically to hold arches up.
Right.
So if you're in that shoe and you already have a high arch, it could actually make you go even more out or more supinated than you were already. So a lot of times people come in and they just say a general term to us, you know, I want the most supportive shoe you have.
Mm-hmm.
But in our world, supportive shoe means different things for different people. So we have to figure out, you know, what support that is. So if you're just looking online and you see, okay, this is a really supportive stability shoe, that sounds great, but that could be for not your arch type at all. So it's something that
absolutely.
we take.
You know, there is no one proper shoe. There's no one shoe that's going to fit every single person who has pronated. There's no one stability shoe. There's no one mobility shoe. There's so many components of it that you need to kind of look into. So that's why, as a physical therapist, if someone has pain, whether it's plantar fasciitis or you just like you may be using a shoe that kind of overpronates you or over supinates you, and you may already have high arch, and then you may be starting to experience some pain on like the outsides of your feet, maybe like your little toes there. So, you know, I always recommend my patients to going to a specialist so that they can get further assessment, not only just whether they need the support or mobility, but also as you talked about, right? Like how much support do you need? How wide does the base needs to be for your specific foot type? So, you know, there's a lot more components to it that goes, but these are just small tips that we're here to give you guys so that if you don't want to do this route and don't want to go see someone, which I highly recommend, of course, but at least you have some basic things that you want to be looking for, you know, that you're not going out and buying Converse if you have really flat feet, because that is just going to make your plantar fascia just worse. It's not going to get any better. So, you know, thank you so much, Andy, for all the help. It's really helpful.
Thanks for having me.
Andy is very generous. He's going to give, if you mention Ascent Physical Therapy, when you go to his store, he will be offering 15% discount for you guys. So thank you very much for tuning in. See you guys.